Greetings. Welcome to the fourth episode of our solo Runebearer experiment. Last episode, Martin and Rorik explored the rat basement and came upon an open cavern that had a bunch of rocks and stones and fur and hay and wood chips as nesting material. And while they were exploring this, they were ambushed by a group of three giant rats, which they did handle actually fairly simply. And when they investigated further, found a small alcove which had a nest containing a small horde of young, helpless giant rat creatures, as well as a strange effigy constructed of animal bones and sort of in a weird form that made it look like some kind of almost altar or statue. And around it were offerings of baubles, including a small ornamental gem. And that's where I'd like to start. And we did go further than that, but I want to do almost a small retcon, if that's okay. And I'd like to start the episode, which I'd like to call Episode 4. I'm sure there's a simple explanation. So I wanted to retcon a little bit because I thought I sort of almost jumped by the fact that these giant rats had put up a statue or not a statue, obviously. They didn't carve anything, but they put up a rat effigy and laid offerings around it. And so where we're going to return to is we're going to return to that moment. And I'm seeing Martin and Rorik just looking at this thing. You ever seen anything like it? And Martin sort of stroking his chin a little bit, maybe, and he's like, no, nothing. I mean, I'm not a veterinary. I don't know anything about beasts. I don't know who. Does this mean these rats are intelligent? Are they working towards something or for something? He's like, well, and Rorik, of course, is like, maybe we should get the sister. And Martin will remind him, well, she's not a sister. She's just a matron. I doubt she would know anything about this. I mean, she might have a little bit of theological training, but I don't imagine the temple is in the business of teaching about pagan rat gods. I don't like it. Makes me nervous. And I do think it smells to me that Rorik might be superstitious. Maybe a little superstitious. And what would that do for him if he was superstitious? That I think that would give him. The problem is his wit and power are terrible. I think it would almost give him like some kind of like a +1 to like a power save, but a -1 to a wit save, maybe kind of thing, right? Maybe a little superstitious. I mean, he's not a learned man. He's not a superstitious. The world contains all manner of things beyond our understanding. Best not to annoy them. Best not to annoy them. So I'm going to say that he gets a +1 to power saves, -1 to wit saves. And there you go. So we've just give it. There you go. We just gave him a trait. And so what I will often do at my table, well, not often, but every so often at my table game, when something comes up that I think is sort of interesting, I may go to the players. I say, look, does anyone want to take me up on this? And then I will say, you're superstitious, and that's going to give you either some small benefit over here or some small penalty over here, right? And we can negotiate what that means. And it would be something like that, a small plus over here and a small minus over here. Or, hey, if you take that, you can't, if you take the penalty that you can never avoid, like if someone offers you a gambling chance, then I will give you this thing. Sort of make a devil's bargain with the player. And sometimes people don't take you up on it, and that's fine. But sometimes they do. And so they end up getting these little tweaks to their character, and you try to balance them out. You try not to make them super powered. Like, no, you're trying to just give them a little plus for a little minus, just something to give that spice to the character. And so I think Rorik's superstitious. Now Martin isn't superstitious, of course. Um, I think he kicks the statue down. I think Martin's like he just steps on it, smashes it because it's not that big. It's probably only a couple foot tall max, and so he just kicks it down. And Rourke's like, What'd you do that for?" It's whispering, like he doesn't want the gods to hear, right? Um, I mean, it's unnatural, and beyond that, it's a pagan thing. Best, best if we get rid of it. And I think Rorik is like, what if it what if it curses us? He's like, Martin's like, I don't think, I think the mother will protect us, uh, if some 2-bit rat god decides he wants to curse us. And so, of course, the Bostonian, as we talked about in the first episode, Bostonia has effectively two gods, the mother and the father. Um, they're separate sort of religious institutions, but they are the same sort of pantheon. They're the same mythos. The mother is the goddess of water and mercy and healing and mothers and childbirth and alms to the poor, and the father is the god of fathers and authority and the law and kings and nobles and so on, punishments. So I think they destroy the rat statue, but are unnerved, right? I think. Oops, where's my game notes? I lost my game notes. Darn it. But I picture them being a little unnerved, right? So we're gonna retcon. They talk about it, but neither knows anything. Um, about it. And they decide to not involve Matron Mary. Rorik is superstitious. Martin destroys it. Destroys effigy. I should roll. Are they cursed? That's a 1% chance that the rat god, is like, oh yeah, is there a rat god? We don't even know. Don't even know. Presumably, the rats think so. I did roll. There's no curse. So because one of these days Rourke is right, right? Like he's not always wrong. There is magic. There are spirits. Don't piss them off. But currently, nothing is watching as Martin destroys the little altar that the rats put up and smashes it. And I don't know that they, yeah, and neither of them. I don't think. Let me quickly look. I don't think any of them have any skills. Like there's Rorik. He didn't have any skills that's going to apply to this. Theology would apply. Um, knowledges might apply, but nothing here, right? He has alchemists, sources of reagents, and noble houses. Yeah, like theology or maybe something of beast lore or rune lore, would have something for him, but nothing here. So that's where we would end up, and now they move on and explore the rest of these caves. So we got Rorik first, and if you remember, he was leading the way, and he had Martin sort of stand back as he um, went and checked. And Martin was as close as he needed to be, maybe to cast just enough light here that you could get some reflections that would cause this to be, I wouldn't say illuminated, but dimly, super dimly illuminated, where Rorik was sneaking up. So now here's the thing. So this is full disclosure, and probably too much disclosure, to be quite honest with you. So a lot of what is going on in these rooms is, and I'm going to hold up to the camera, but I don't have the camera on. I just I made random tables. So a lot of what happens moment to beat to beat in the adventure, I just wrote a table and said, okay, pick one of these, or roll one of these. So when we first entered the inn, I rolled 3 times on the table of what interesting folks were at the inn, and then the rest of the interplay theoretically came from that. Same thing with the rooms of this. So I mean, not to ruin all the magic or whatever, but there's only like another chamber left, right? Like this place is not gigantic, and so the idea is that I would have effectively something in the last room specifically, and something in the first room specifically, and then the other 2 rooms would be random, and they would then sort of imply what's in the last room based on what I have rolled, or imply what's going on based on what I have rolled, and that's fine, right? So so that top room was, the small pile of animal bones, blah blah blah, right? That whole thing. And then this one is, so Rorik as he approaches. So bear with me. So Rorik as he approaches, he does hear the skittering of rats again, and sort of shakes his head, right, and grips his war mace a little more tightly as he gets ready for one more battle against these rats. And he's thinking to himself, geez, how many of these things are there? We killed 8 already. How many more are there? But then he hears a child crying and sort of a sniffling, right? Like that sobbing. Something there seems to be a human, a person in there, a child who is terrified. And of course, he will step forward and call for Martin. Martin, I need the light. Sort of as quiet as he can while being as urgent as he can, and trying to move forward as quickly as possible. So he's spurred into action by this. But now I need to answer a question because I have a child who's gone missing from the surrounding village, is trapped here by 4 giant rats. Saving the child will bring esteem from the folks here and maybe an increased reward from the innkeeper, but is something sinister going on here? And so we need to answer that before we move forward. Because that sort of drives a lot of bits. So that's why I said, oh my, last episode, because I was like, this could have been simple. There's a lot of things here where it's pretty trivial, right? The rest of the adventure just continues, whereas this one could throw us for a loop. And so what I've sort of decided on is just a set of, well, how did this kid get here, right? Or how did this, what has come about to bring this here? And I'm going to roll that now, and that is going to probably determine the rest of the course of this adventure, or this part of the adventure. So let's roll real quick. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. All right. I should have paused as I sit there and go, sometimes I wonder why I put options in if I don't know what I'm going to do with those options when they come up. But that's so. Let me if you don't mind, I'm going to gather the room up here. So give me a second. So as Rorig peeks in, he sees shadowed, right? All shadows. You can barely see in here. But there is a sort of a rock outcropping, and there is a child there, sort of huddled, and there are 4 rats sort of sniffing anxiously around this poor urchin. And so I'm gonna roll sneak for Rorik to see, and we'll give it a 10 difficulty, so 12 versus 10, because Rorik's sneak is actually pretty good, but I think he takes a minus, doesn't he? It's bulky 2. I'm pretty sure bulky. So every piece of armor has some sort of, and we should be careful, he has muffled too. So every piece of armor potentially has statistics, pretty much, or attributes. So, for instance, a muffled thing, you have a minus penalty when you're wearing this to make search checks because you're wearing a helmet that covers you and covers your ears and so on. His defense 3 chest piece is clumsy, I believe. No, bulky 2. What does bulky 2 mean? Take a minus X penalty when perform athlete or climb checks. His trait does not stack, and you only take the worst. So there you go. So good. It's not noisy. Noisy would be a penalty against the stealth checks. So we're going to give him his full stealth, 12 minus 10, or 12 versus 10, and he succeeds. So I'm going to say that Rorik gets a surprise action before anyone else he gets to act. And though he can barely see, he can see just enough. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He could get to here, make a half move, and charge. Not charge. It's not a charge. He would have to. That would be a full move. A charge is a full move. So before round 1 even starts, and I think Rorik wants to save the kid, so he's going to fight with Wild Abandon from the get-go, even though that's going to be so dangerous because he's going to take a -2 to his defenses. And all of these rats are going to then be on him in round one. But I think that I think he feels he has to. So he charges up, um, and he's going to fight with Wild Abandon, and he's going to attack Rat 3 before anything else happens. Rat 3's so he's flanking Rat 3. Rat 3's defense is 9 -2 because he is flanked, and technically it would be -2 again because this is a surprise round. So he is down to 5 defense. So Rorik gets an 11 versus 5. He rolls just a straight on 0. So he has an 18 versus a 12. So he does hit the rat. Rorik's damage, I actually figured the macros out, by the way. I took time in between to figure the macros. Rorik hits for 9 damage. Now that's +2. So hold on. So we get +2, so it's 11 damage. He hits him in the head. That's plus another damage because Rorik's weapon has Skull Smasher. So again, we'll pull up the weapons list real quick. Rorik has a War Mace. And a War Mace, though it has crappy accuracy and crappy parry, it has Skull Smasher, which is +1 damage if you hit him in the head, and Concussion 4, meaning if I hit you in the head, I have a 4 in 12 chance of also of stunning you, no matter what else happens. It takes a muscle of 12 to wield a War Mace. So Rorik charges up, hits for 9 in the head, +2 because of Fight with Wild Abandon, +3 because so 11 damage, 12 damage total. And yeah, there's a lot of modifiers, but if you're a player, you hopefully have these written down. It's a lot like playing Rollmaster. I used to play Rollmaster back in the day, and you used to all have a binder with your character sheets in it. And if we wound, oh, it's a graze. That first die is a graze. But we do stun him. So the rat is stunned because of concussion. So I'm going to put just a stun marker on him. And the stun marker is going to be that, right? So he is stunned. So there you go. So Rorik strides up, smashes this thing in the head. It sort of gives a little squee, and then it is stunned. But we don't actually wound it because the first die. So I have the wound. So I'm going to roll 5 dice every time. And obviously, we'll just have to figure out how many dice you get when you wound someone. But the first one is always in play, and the first one always matters, and it was a graze. So we graze him, quote unquote. Don't ask how. Now we roll initiative. So everybody rolls initiative. We're going to roll 60-12. Go straight down from the top. Rorik rolls a 14. He is super freaking motivated. So +2. Martin gets a 12 because he heard his friend go, get your ass up here. And he does. He probably even says it. Martin. He probably even says it loud. He probably doesn't even care at this point. Get your ass up here. And so that is where we're going to start. Rorik is first in round 1. So I think Rorik is going to sidestep down, and he's going to essentially try to carve a path to this kid. So he's going to sidestep down, and he's going to smash this guy. No, you know what he's going to do instead? We're gonna go all out. We're gonna be as clever as we possibly can, because Rorik is still flanking this rat. And the reason you know he's flanking this rat is because this rat is facing this direction. And so what that means is, if you remember from our previous discussions, that means that this arc, this rear arc, is a flank. If he goes down here to this rat, he is not flanking that rat because he did not start in the rear arc of that rat. He started on the line, as it were. So let's Control Z all these random lines I drew. Okay. So Rorik is going to step to here and then use the fact that he is flanking. And so Rorik rolls a 12. So he's going to auto wound this guy no matter what. And he's sort of on fire now. So he, again, 9 damage, plus 2 because of Wild Abandon. Plus 1 because of head. So he does 12 more points of damage. He does 12 damage to this rat. I mean, he does not concuss the rat. But he does do a, let's see, 4, 7, 11, 3-die wound to the head. And so wound 7, 1, or 10. He'll take 10, obviously. In the head, a 10 is stun 1, bleed 1, impair 1, shock 2. So bleed and impair. We'll save that on his sheet. He is stunned. So we'll put a little marker on him to show that he is stunned. Shock 2 is going to take him out. I don't know why I did all that. Shock 2 is 7, and the rat is done. And Rorik has taken out 2 rats in 2 rounds. He is motivated to get to this kid. Martin's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hey, what the heck? Oh my God. Rorik? Huh. Done. But that's literally his move. Rat 3 is unstunned. So stunned means you lose your action, of course, and you become unstunned, and you take penalties to whatever. But that's all he gets to do is become unstunned. Rat 2 is gone. We're on Rat 1 now. I think Rat 1 is going to either jump at Rorik or make a play for the kid. And this is not this is a 6-year-old, 7-year-old maybe. So a young kid, a little kid, right? And though these rats are not really that big, I think they might be able to, manhandle the kid a bit. So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3. It goes for. It's gonna leap up those rocks and jump for the child and either try to knock him down or drag him down to where this rat 4 is. Or 4, 5, 6, he goes after Rorik because Rorik is an imminent threat. 3. Okay. And why? Hard to say, but presumably there's something with this kid that they want to. So he's going to charge up here. And I'm just going to make sort of a general skill roll. And the kid's not like he's not like a defensive, mastermind or anything. But the rats attack, and he's going to take a penalty for climbing up on the rough terrain. And the kid maybe cowers and maybe kicks at him or something. Let's take a quick roll. And I'm going to say that he does indeed sort of grab the kid and knock him, let's say. And so we're going to put the kid here. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like the chibi head or whatever, but I don't have a lot of options for kids. So I figured that would show that he's immature, right? I don't know. Don't ask me. So he knocks the kid to the ground. The kid is crying now in pain. He takes, a small amount of damage, but it's not a 10-foot fall or anything. It is just 3 or 4 feet to the ground. The kid will roll a d12. Oh, he knocks his head. You know what? He knocks his head. Knocks the kid out. Knocks the kid cold. Um, Rat 2 or Rat 4 is going to take. He's gonna eat. So he just latches on, bites, grabs like some, whatever, the clothing of the kid or whatever, bites down, and then is dragging with almost an unnatural strength. So Rat 4 has the child, and again, and he's dragging him, and he's going to go 1, 2. Now the problem is he does need to stop. So Martin exerts a zone of control. And the rat is going to need to stop there for a round. And I'm actually going to put the rat here. If he's going to try to drag the kid past Martin, he's going to do it and try to go through this narrow space because, again, the rat and the kid can fit. And so he's going to go that direction. So the rat goes, grabs the kid, and goes here. But then has to stop and give Martin sort of an attempt. And that's the end of round 1. Round 2, well, obviously, Rourke is going to be able to go first. And he is going to obviously try to get to the kid. But if he moves like this, then he's stuck with the rat as well. The rat is still, up and about. He actually still exerts now a zone. Well, so if we go here, the rat gets a shot. The rat turns and gets effectively an opportunity attack. So we can go 1. Rourke ideally wants to go 1, 2, 3. Or he could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and make it so it's, but he's going to go 1, 2, 3. But when he goes there, the rat has an opportunity to take a shot, and he will. The rat's attack is a 7, and that is against Martin's 11, but -2 because you are trying to disengage, and that is a penalty. Disengaging is very punishing. So it's 7-9, and the rat misses, and Rourke can continue his move. And so he does continue his move like that, and he is going to smash this damn thing. He's going to, and I think he's got to be a little careful because of the kid. So he's going to take a -2 to hit again. So we're back to a 9 versus a 9 now. Although the rat has to drag the kid, but I think a 9 versus, I think that's fair. Oh, and he's going to hit. You can't stop him. He is like, Martin, stop that rat. And Martin is just going, how does the rat dragging that child? Rourke hits for 10 damage. He smashes it in the hindquarters. And so I'm picturing that this thing almost has the left arm of the child and is dragging him by his arm. but holy crap. So he hits it in the hindquarters for 10 damage. +2 is 12 damage. And as you can see, the wound dice that we're going to get. So let's see how many wound dice 12 damage is, right? Because it's 4, 7, 10. So he gets 3 wound dice. And so he's going to disable the leg. The rat is rendered immobile. So 12 damage, and I don't know what else happens. My guess is he's gone because of shock. Leg, shock 3. Sure. Yeah, and he's out. I mean, he just. So the kid now is in this hex between flanked by our heroes, strangely enough. Um, Martin goes there, maybe, and that sort of forms. Because again, their zones of control are going to really like the other rat would have to go all the way around. So I think Martin steps here. I think he's going to take a shot at that rat. And his attack is a 9. The rat's defense is a 9. He is going to hit. And Martin hits for 5 damage in the head. And the wound is a 3. So that's enough to take that rat out. Rat 4 is gone. And as I do often at the table, where I think probably the battle is over, I am going to just sort of allow the. I'm gonna. I would go to the players now and go. I think this one's over. You can clean up this. Like you can clean up. Like this rat either scurries away or is killed, and and that is done. And so maybe he does. Maybe this rat literally scurries and around the top. And so these guys play defense on the kid, right? But this rat is out and gone. So like maybe he sprints 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and he just sprints out of the cave. And the battle's over. And Rorik is like, Martin, tend to the kid. And he then watches out to make sure nothing's coming. And Martin will apply medical to the child to see sort of what is going on. So first off, let's make sure. I think everybody got a check in the previous fight. So yeah, so I don't think we need any more checks in combat because they got one in the last episode. And probably like before, I'm going to do 2 episodes are going to be, a table session. So that's fine. So now Martin is going to grab his medical kit, which he is carrying. He was not carrying the alchemy field kit, but he and the bedroll, but he is carrying the medical kit. And so he will use a charge out of that and make a skill roll on his medical to hopefully. And he blows it. You know what? He's not gonna. He can't. He's not gonna blow it. He is going to burn his inspiration. He's like, "Come on, Martin." He's like talking to himself and shit. Like, God, he's so bad at his job. That's. I wonder. He might have just failed out of school. Like I have this whole conspiracy theory planned for him or whatever, right? Like, oh, how did you get kicked out of school? I mostly sucked at what I did. was I was a D student at best. Um, so I think so how I rule that is that he can bandage the kid, so the kid's not going to bleed out or anything, right? And he's not going to die of this head injury. It's just a minor, right? He took a minor knock. Now, mind you, if indeed you were ever knocked unconscious, you should go to the hospital because that's serious in almost all cases. That is serious. In movies and TV, people are knocked out all the time and they're just fine afterward. You should definitely go to the ER once that happens. Um, so we're going to say that Martin bandages the kid. The kid's bleeding a little bit from just a minor scalp wound, and he wasn't really even knocked out. He was just, so he wasn't really. Yeah, maybe he was. It doesn't matter. But he's not coming to at the moment. Or maybe he's concussed. The main key is he is not sort of mobile on his own power. So Martin wraps the chop, bandages him up. He's like, well, I think he'll be fine with his -7 medical roll. Yeah, he is not good. Like I've done that to players before when I'm rolling 12s and 11s against them, and they're just miserable. So Martin will scoop the child up. And essentially say let's get him back. Let's get him back to the matron and the aspirants, and they can take care of him. And yeah, Rorik agrees. Rorik's like, right. You go ahead, start back. And so they'll go back. Rorik is gonna like back away from the right where his back, like he knows they haven't left anything back here behind them, but he doesn't know what's here. And does he hear anything? Let's make a quick skill check. No, he doesn't hear anything. He hears the skittering of the rat that fled and a bunch of squeaking. And he's worried that there's going to be like some kind of weird horde of rats that come. So so Rorik's going to take rear guard and back out of here while Martin is going to, as fast as he possibly can, get back to the basement. Now, what's the chance that something does come after them? Like, why were they grabbing at this kid? What? So I'm going to say that on a roll of 11 or 12 on a D12, the rats come at them as they're trying to get away. Jesus. Well, of course. Of course they do. I mean, so this is how we generate that uncertainty, which of course then so Martin is running as fast as he can with the kid, and he's not super strong or anything. So he has kid in his arms, and he's trying to be gentle with him because the kid obviously took a little bit of a shot there. And Rourke is sort of backing out, and he is sort of slow, right? He's slow pace backing out. And I'm gonna take a moment to roll to see what they see coming around. Okay, all right. Because I sort of know vaguely what I think is left here. And so as Martin is sort of moving with the child, he hears Rourke from down the corridor. Martin, Rourke, and he turns, You'd better run. And so, give me a moment. Wait, do I? Oh no, that's just a tourney thing. Okay, let's do yeah, we're gonna do we're gonna turn Rat One into a not that's not Rat One. He didn't like transmorgify into a huge rat. But what Rurik sees or hears down the corridor is a much like just a much bigger version of the rat. And so the question is, so if that thing turns the corner and it just scratches at the ground and right, it has the red eyes and it is drooling and it charges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Rourke is going to also just back the hell up, but he is yelling at Martin to run. So what I'm gonna do, I don't want to go into rounds yet. We've had quite enough fighting at the moment. Um, I think we're going. So I'm just gonna roll it out, right? I'm gonna roll it out. I'm gonna say Martin has a head start, and if Martin sprints, then he's gonna get there literally in a turn. And it pretty much comes down to Rorik versus this rat. And Rorik can outrun the rat, certainly, but he is trying to sort of slow play it and make sure Martin gets away. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to just take this down to an athletics test. So, we have athlete at 10, and we have athlete at 10. I am going to give us a +2 because we are 2 inches faster. Our base move is 8. The rats, the big rats, the huge rats is 6. It's funny that the giant rats are small, but the huge rat is bigger. I have to think of a name. Rat brute, maybe? Let's call it, yeah, something, right? Let's call it something that indicates that it is not giant, but called the brute. The brute only has a 6 move. So we're going to give him a +2 to that, and we're going to say that it's like a 12 difficulty maybe of a 10. This rat also has a decent muscle and probably a decent skill, so they're rolling off against each other, and we'll give Rorik a +2 based on his movement speed. So Rorik needs so Rorik's the roller in this case, so he's the first die, and he rolls a 6. So he rolls a 12 plus 10 is 22, and the rat only rolls a 14. And so pretty much once he hears Martin take off down the corridor, Rorik starts to take off down the corridor, and then this thing charges down the corridor at both of them. And then Martin stumbles in. Rourke makes some ground on the creature, but the creature is charging down. I think my only concern is going to be the damn door. If the door's closed, that's going to kill an action probably to get that door open. So we're going to put Martin here with the kid. Rorik is just getting in, and this thing is charging down the corridor. And at this point, Rorik mostly has his back turned. And he is maneuvering through this stuff. So, first question, is the door open or closed? And I hate to say that's like just a 50-50, right? 1 to 6 open. Yeah, so it is still open because they didn't close it necessarily. So Martin's going to run in, and so I think that sort of caps it. So the brute gets actually, because he's fairly large, and he smashes into these crates and barrels, and Rorik has a slightly easier time squeezing through, and so he's up through. Rorik is going to run through the open door, and he will slam the door. Leaving the brute in that first room, sort of huffing and puffing, and maybe he throws his body into the door once. But they will escape with that athletics, with that athletics check, and the door being open. If the door's closed, I think Rorik gets stuck there because Martin would he would have to delay the thing around so that Martin could bring the child through. So there's maybe a single loud slam into the door as the brute sort of hits the door. And Rorik holds the door shut, but it's the door is a sturdy door, and I think Rorik calls up. So Martin will head up. Obviously, the matron and the aspirants, and the boy has been taken to a bed, but the mother's there with 1 or 2 of the aspirants. Martin is going to lay the child down on the kitchen table where they worked on the boy. Rush back down. Rorik just looks back. Get me something to block this door. And so Martin heads back to the innkeeper, who's like, so let's. I mean, I'm not going to draw any of this, right? I'm not going to keep moving Martin around. That's sort of silly. So here's my first question: is that noble still here? Is that noble still? And I would say it's very likely because it's not that late, and the nobles, chatting up some local barflies and telling tales. I would say on a 1 to 4, he's retired to his quarters, and on a 5 through 12, he is still here. Nope, he's retired to his quarters. There you go. So he actually, excuse me, ladies, the road has made me weary, and though I would love to stay here and regale you with tales of my munificence, he's begged off for the night. Maybe one of his bodyguards is still there. So the innkeeper's not quite. He's like, the innkeeper's not as worried about disturbing the noble. We really need a name for that guy. How about Lord? Lord, did I give a name for that dude or not? Oh my god! I just figured out you can right click and pan without going to the pan tool. Jesus Lord, that is amazing. Um, no, I do not have the noble's name. We need a good. How about Lord Trenton? Rourke is superstitious. Martin destroys the effigy. They find a next chamber being menaced by 4 rats. Rurik kicks the heck out of the rats. Rurik Rurik charges in and kills 2 rats instantly, almost instantly. Child is knocked from his rocky perch and unconscious. Rats try to drag him off, but the PCs save him. Carry him back and are pursued by a huge rat, the brute. They run. PCs run. Lock door to basement, and brute slams into it. There you go. So the innkeeper's like, the Lord's man's still here. You know, what's going on? What's that noise? And Martin's like, I need something to block the door. And I don't know that they have a ton of stuff to bar the door. Maybe they can get, because the door opens. Probably opens inward, right? I don't really know. The door to my basement opens into the steps. But again, that's at the top of the steps. This is at the bottom of the steps. No, it opens in. So it opens in. So I'm trying to figure out whether the door would open into the basement or into the hallway. And I'm going to say the door opens into the hallway. There's a landing here, so the steps don't go flush, right up to the door. There's a landing here, the door opens in. So we could bar it with maybe some filled casks or barrels, some crates if we have them. So Martin is like, help me move this barrel, right? And so the innkeeper's like, all right, but keep it down. And Martin's like, if we don't block the door, we're going to have a lot worse than some thumping noise to deal with. And that's a good question, right? Can Martin sort of coax the innkeeper into action with persuade? Sure, I'll give him a shot, right? I'll give him a roll for that too. Sure. And so I think what that means is that the innkeeper stops, right? Because the innkeeper's hesitating. He keeps looking back at in the tavern, like trying to look up. And Martin's like, "Look, man, help me with this barrel," because Martin, is not really able to get. So the innkeeper is persuaded of the gravity of the situation. and so helps Martin with a barrel, and they get a barrel down there, and maybe they get a crate of something down there, um, maybe even they go up. Maybe they go up and are like, "Oh, yeah, how are, oh yes, how are you doing, my?" Yeah, they wave to the bar as they take like a table. They're like, "Oh, no mind, just a little bit of housekeeping. It's getting late," and then they disappear back down the steps. And then they like, you know, turn the table over and jam it down in there and or whatever, right? So there's a table, there's a couple barrels, there's a crate of something from the pantry and so on. And so the door at least is blocked off, and we'll say that as far as they know, unless something changes, the door is safe. Why don't we make one quick muscle check though, just as this is going on? So, what is Rorik's muscle? 15. Let's say compared to a 14 or something of maybe the brute. Because he's not as big as a man. Maybe a 14, a 13. The door is also heavy. So why don't we say this? We'll say a 15 versus a 12. Given that there's a door there, he's closed the door. He is holding the door shut with his body weight, and 15 to 12. So Rurik is up 3, and he easily keeps that door held while they load stuff down into there and block it. And that we're going to say that the door is safe for now. And I think that's where we'll end up for this episode. Our kid hasn't woken up yet. I need a name for the kid. So yeah, so he hasn't woken up yet. Obviously, when he wakes up, we're going to be very interested in questioning how he got into that rat basement and figuring that out. But we will leave that till next time. This has been episode 4. Thank you for watching or listening, and we will catch you next time.